Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Pete and this is a 5-minute Bags of Action review of The Karate Kid Part 3 from 1989. 3 years after the second movie and 5 years after the original, Daniel and Mr. Miyagi are back again. I do think it's quite mad to think actually that Ralph Macchio, I think, was 27 and married at the point when he played 17, 18-year-old Daniel for the third time. He's lucky to have that baby face. Anyway, so what is The Karate Kid Part 3 all about? Ostracized villain John Kreese attempts to gain revenge on Daniel and Miyagi with the help of a Vietnam War comrade, the wealthy owner of a toxic waste disposal business. That is it in a nutshell. So Johnny isn't back, but things do shift back in the main town and back to the setting of the first film. Again, it's directed by John G. Avadson. His son actually appears in this movie too, as he has in some of the Rocky films, and written by Robert Mark Cayman. So for the whole of this trilogy, it's been the same director and the same writer. Ralph Macchio is back as Daniel, Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi. Robyn Lively is the love interest this time. She's been in loads of TV. His fighting rival is played by Kanan, again, who's done loads of TV and some B-movies. Martin Kove, as mentioned, is back as Kreese. And then we have possibly the world's most moustache-twirling villain in history, Thomas Ian Griffiths, who tried to be established as a bit of a kind of martial arts more like an American Van Damme around this time. He was in films like Ulterior Motives. I remember him in Excessive Force. Cole the Conqueror. He was in Vampires, the John Carpenter film, and also Triple X as well. But he didn't really establish himself as one of the big action stars. So, this was only the second time I've seen this one, and once again we start off with flashbacks to the first and second film, and we pick things up straight away. Miyagi and Daniel walk straight out of the airport, having come back from Okinawa in the second film. And again, they build in more backstory. Now we find out that Cobra Kai was bought for John Kreese by this new character, played by Thomas Ian Griffith, and yeah, it suffers a little bit in that same way. It's kind of like they start the film and start to load it with new things that maybe we would have found out before. It also made me laugh because just like at the start of the second film, when Ali off camera kind of dumps Daniel, Kamiko this time doesn't move over with them from Japan because she's got a new job there. So that seems to be what these films do. At the start of the movie, the love interest is removed off camera and a new one is brought in, which did make me chuckle. So this is set only 1 year after the first film. So it's been 5 years in reality, but actually only 1 year in the story. So Daniel has the chance to defend his title. Daniel and Mr. Miyagi set up a bonsai tree shop together and things kind of change, which, again, you're looking at it with cold eyes now. Daniel's story of going from moving to a new town, not making any friends, winning a karate tournament, to living with an old man and having a bonsai tree shop does kind of stretch things. But that isn't the biggest problem here. I mean, Daniel and Mr. Miyagi's relationship is so well explored, and they're so good at doing that together that you kind of allow some of the other ridiculous things to happen. But Thomas Ian Griffiths is playing Terry Silver is so over the top that he makes Kreese seem kind of understated. We see so much of his real life and his kind of multi-millionaire lifestyle and his toxic waste business that by the time he befriends Daniel, or pretends to befriend Daniel, the audience knows, I think, too much about him. It would have been good if he just turned up and we'd assumed that he was genuine and we assumed that Kreese was actually dead, but then we found out the truth. I think spoon-feeding the audience with everything before the characters and building that dramatic irony was a little bit frustrating. Once again, the formula hasn't changed much. There are bullies to fight. Mr. Miyagi will turn up to save the day. But when they up the ante, it does feel like they've gone a bit too far. There's a rape threat in there. And it does feel like people are willing to kill each other in order to get to this tournament or make money, which again feels a million miles away from the innocence and purity of the first film. Yeah, and I personally think it did go a bit too far. I do like how Mr. Miyagi's calmness and his pacifism is at odds with the world around him, which is something they've explored in all these movies. That part and how Daniel kind of turns away from him a bit and kind of it builds on his kind of petulance and his arrogance of being a teenager. But then he becomes self-aware. I like that a lot. Mr. Miyagi, once again, Pat Morita's acting stands head and shoulders above everyone else. This film's quite frustrating. It's trying to be like the first one, but it kind of goes too far. I was rewatching these films with a view to rewatching Cobra Kai and seeing how it all linked together, but to be honest, I think you could just watch the first Karate Kid movie and then jump straight into the TV show, because the second and third film, they just throw in a way too much in, and they put too much backstory which you don't necessarily need. So, with all that considered, I'm going to actually give the Karate Kid Part 3 2 bags of action out of 5. So I gave 5 to the first one, 3 to the second one, and 2 to the third. So I guess that's the law of diminishing returns, I believe. And again, still a lot of that is due to the goodwill from the first movie. But maybe I'm wrong. Have you seen The Karate Kid Part 3? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Is it the weakest of the 3? Feel free to comment below or get in touch with us on email, Facebook, or on Twitter. We have new episodes coming out weekly alongside our full-length podcast, usually with me and my co-host. Don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell for notifications so you'll know when the next episode comes out. Bags of Action will always be free, but you can support the show by buying us a coffee at the Ko-fi page.